Hi, Kalidasa here to talk a little bit about levels of enlightenment. So on another video of mine, I did talk about this a little bit, but I want to go a little deeper about it with you now. When we have an enlightenment experience, we generally have an experience of self. So as I mentioned before, there are four primary questions that we contemplate on an Enlightenment Intensive. You contemplate who you are, that is the individual, what you are, that is what is the same as all these other individuals out there, what life is, which is what is all of this stuff that I'm walking around in and trying to function in, and what is another, which is usually looked at when we first start contemplating as what are all these other people out here, all these other beings. And that goes to a different place, and I'll get to that in a moment. So those are the four primary levels of experience. But even though those are, two of them are external to you, there's still self-enlightenment. There's still self-knowledge that occurs to have that when you have that experience. So there's only one who. So there's only one you. So there's only one experience of self that can happen in that way, as far as who you are, as far as you the individual. So that's only one level there, and that level is fairly easy to get to. And as I mentioned in the other video, it's happening a lot more. A lot more people are born knowing who they are. When I started taking intensives, so 40 or so years ago, hardly anybody knew. I met this one woman who knew who she was. She had been in India for a few months and at some ashram, and she came to take the intensive, and I was coaching her on doing the technique. And I said, "Tell me who you are," and she did. It just blew me away, my young little mind that didn't know any of this stuff at the time. It just was totally real. So anyway, that was a rare occurrence, and now it happens a lot. If you want to communicate who you are to me, please do contact me. You can go to, if you're on the blog, you can go to the contact, or that's probably the best place. Just go to my blog, kalidasa.com, and send me a message through the contact. All messages go directly to my email, my primary email, which is a Gmail account, and I will respond to you from that account. So you'll have my real, forever, I've had it for a really long time, email account. Okay. So anyway, what we are, what you are, there are several different levels of that. You can have many different experiences. And my teacher, Yogeshwar, my guru Yogeshwar, I have two gurus. One of them is the student of the other. So Yogeshwar is the student of the other one, Kripalu. So I consider them both my guru. So anyway, Yogeshwar, very brilliant, knowledge-oriented person. I mean, this guy had an IQ that was literally off the charts, could not be measured, which means it was 200 or above. So he was absolutely brilliant person, and he liked to count things and have all this knowledge-based stuff, which I'm not as strong as him in that. I have a strong that's a strong part of me, the knowledge-oriented, but his was much stronger. But anyway, he said, I forget how many he said. It seems like it was 7 levels of what am I. Like I said, he counted things. And when he had experiences of life, he counted those out, and I think he said there were 6 of them, but later he augmented it and said there was a 7th one of those. One friend of mine, a spiritual teacher, a student of Yogeshwar's, who was my first spiritual teacher, but not my guru. He once asked Yogeshwar, "What is the 7th level of life?" And Yogeshwar just laughed at him. And then I think he went on to try and explain it. I'll try and explain some of that a little bit someday. So anyway, there's all these different levels of life. You can experience life in all these different ways. And then there's experiences of what is another, and I don't even remember what number he put on that, if there was a number. Um, I just can't remember. But there's, from my experience, I've had contemplating what is another. I've had several experiences, and I can't even honestly go back and count and remember the different experiences I had. This intensive or that one, or this place when I had an enlightenment experience outside an intensive. I can't remember any of that. I just can't count them. So it just becomes real to you at some point. It just gets more and more real, and that's what happens with the different levels of enlightenment. At first, you have these experiences, but and you deepen them. You get deep into the experience when you take an intensive, especially. You communicate that experience, and if you didn't get a chance to communicate that experience if you've had one, please contact me wherever that tab is, and communicate it to me. I'm happy to receive your enlightenment experience. It's one of my favorite things to do. Um, so anyway, you communicate that experience, and it deepens it so that it is there. It's accessible. It doesn't mean that it's there all the time. You go back out in the world and you get into some confrontations with somebody, and you have these emotions come up, and you lose yourself. I mean, that's what happens with emotions. We lose ourselves, and that's what happens still. But when you have an enlightenment experience, when you have some level, even a small level of enlightenment experience, you're able to break that disconnect easier. It gets easier because you know you're not your mind. You know you're not these emotions that are occurring. And you're able to break out of that and come back to yourself and be good to people, be better to somebody, to be able to communicate with the person you're arguing with, for example, and get out of the negativity and get into the place of, well, here's where we don't connect, here's where we're not getting each other, here's where I'm not getting you, whatever it is, you're able to break that disconnect to connect again. So as you're able to connect with the self better, then you're able to connect with others better. And isn't that what it's all about? So the deeper the enlightenment experience, the more able you are to do that. The more able you are to carry that experience around with you continuously. And when you get to a certain level, then it becomes more real all the time. You're walking around in it all the time. I've met people who were in this state. They weren't still perfected, but they knew all the time who they and what they were. In particular, and just to give you a little glimpse of some of the depth of what self-enlightenment can be, is that you realize that there is no self. So that's the no self. Uh, I know that doesn't make sense, but that's where these people were at when I've talked to them, when I met them. One of them was a very good friend of mine who unfortunately passed away. And she and I would joke about this all the time. And this is what Zen masters do. They sit and joke. There's all these stories of Zen masters sitting around joking about how all these people are doing all this contemplating stuff, and there is no enlightenment. They joke about that. And that's some truth too. There's some truth to that as well. So anyway, I could go on, and I love talking about this. If you have any questions about this, which I hope this has enough controversy in it, it's a very controversial topic, and a lot of the things I said are paradoxical. Please hit me up. Tell me how crazy I am and where I'm off and how you don't get this or get that, and how can I say this and say that. I love it because that's the mind breaking. So please contact me. Break my mind. My mind needs to be broken. And you can help by just calling me on whatever you want to call me on. And I'll shoot back and tell you what my view is. And maybe we'll get on the phone and talk about it, or on Skype or something. Because this is important work. We all need more enlightenment in the world. It needs to be deeper. There needs to be more people that are like you, that are interested in the truth. Because the more of people like you that there are, the more we pull up the rest of the world. There's all this unconsciousness. and you bring some consciousness into this, and it elevates everybody. So please, help us out. Help us all out. We need it. The world's a mess. Okay, and I'm glad you're not a mess. And if you are, let me know that too. Happy to talk to you about whatever mess you want to talk about. Okay, thanks. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for watching. There are a lot more videos like this coming out over the next few months and years on yoga, yoga philosophy, spirituality, meditation, and more. But I can't do this without your help. Would you consider donating to help defer the costs? It would be greatly appreciated. And you can subscribe to Kalidasa.com so you know when anything new comes out. The links are below. My name is Kalidasa, a longtime yogi and yoga teacher, and now I am presenting some of what I have learned over the last few decades. My desire here is for you to find value for your life. And please, ask questions and give comments. They help inspire what to present.